All right, everybody, it is time for another one of my world famous tier lists. This time, we will once again be looking at the world of debut albums. It's interesting because, like I said before, debut albums fall into one of three categories. I feel like usually they're either the best thing the band ever did, and the rest of their career, they're sort of chasing that first album, trying to get back to the genius of what they did at the very beginning, or they are terrible and you're like, oh my God, this band is awful. They're never going to be any good. And it takes them like several records to get there. Occasionally, they're just kind of in the middle. Occasionally, but I feel like usually they go one way or the other. So this time we'll take a look at some of your favorite artists' debut albums and we'll ask ourselves, where do they fit? Let's start with
my Patreon. If you like what I do on YouTube and everywhere else, joining my Patreon really helps me do this full time and worry less about videos getting demonetized by YouTube or copyright claimed by labels. Patrons get all my podcasts and main channel videos early. There are members only channels in my Discord that I'm super active in. I also do giveaways. For example, I've been giving away a lot of Emo's Not Dead merch, and you can also have me review your music, artwork, or anything else. All you need to do is join my Patreon at the $10 level, and then every month I do a call for submissions. If you want me to review something, just drop it in the comments of that post, and then I will review it live on Twitch. So if any of that sounds cool to you, hit the link in the description of this video, and I appreciate your support.
Let's start with My Chemical Romance. How about that? Let's start there. So this is the very first My Chemical Romance album. It is called I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. And this is from, I think, 2002. And many people sort of don't know that this album even exists because it was an indie album, really didn't do much. So most people think of 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge as being their first album, but it's not. This is the first one. I haven't listened to it in a long time. Let's see. Got our 5/7/8 riff. Unholy Confessions. Here it is. I don't think they even acknowledge this album. Is that true? I've never paid attention, but I could imagine. I don't think it's great. The intro is extremely long. Brutally long. Why are they judging Asian girls? Good question. Kind of a weird video. I have a story about this album. So I worked in Manhattan around the time that this album came out. I started working there at the end of 2002, and I lived in New Jersey. And I worked near the FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in Midtown Manhattan by Penn Station. And I took the train from New Jersey. I remember there was a girl that would take the train with me a lot who went to FIT, and she would wear like Dropkick Murphys shirts and stuff like that. And I talked to her once. We would always see each other on the train, and obviously, you know, we could tell that we were into the same kind of music. And she said something about like her boyfriend being in a band. And I was like, oh, cool. What's the name of his band? And she said, My Chemical Romance. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was it. And then 2-3 years later, I saw them on MTV, and I said, hey, that girl that I used to ride the train with, her boyfriend's band is famous now, and I don't know who she is. Somebody told me that it might have been one of the people that they're still married to, but I don't remember her well enough to be able to like identify her. But if anybody knows who she was, which member of My Chemical Romance had a girlfriend who went to FIT in 2002, I would love to know. As far as this album goes, I would say this is one of those examples of a band where you can kind of hear the potential, but it's not quite there yet. It's okay, but would I choose to listen to it? I would not. I think it's it's borderline bad, I think. Borderline bad. Yeah, the album art is really bad. So I would put them on the C tier. I think you could argue that it might be B tier, but no higher than that. I don't think it's great. That's where I'm going to put it. That's what I think. Next up, how about Slipknot? Again, a lot of people think that Slipknot's first album is the self-titled. It's not. It is this, MFKR, Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. And let me just say, it is not fantastic. Let's just say that. It is not fantastic. Had to play air bass to this. Yeah, they had a different vocalist. Listen to that. Someone listened to a little bit too much Mr. Bungle. Guys, put down the Mr. Bungle record. Put down the Mr. Bungle record and back away. This is like Primus and Mr. Bungle, but even more shit. Every high school band who thinks they're doing something creative and new. A little too much Berber dang. Yeah, so not good. Not good. Not good. Now, obviously, I think Slipknot is a great band, so no judgment there. I'm pretty sure that if you ask the people in the band, I don't think anybody in the band thinks that this was good. I feel okay about passing judgment on this. I'm gonna go with F tier on that one. That is like some serious local band kind of shit. What's crazy is imagine them being the same band that would go on to put out so many fucking great songs like only a couple years later. I think this is from like 94, you know, that they would do so many great things only a couple years later. So it just goes to show. Yesterday's shit tier local band is tomorrow's all-time greatest band in history. Who knew? Your shitty local band could be next. You could be the next big thing. How about another 2000s great, Fall Out Boy, the very first Fall Out Boy album. And I'll tell you something interesting about that too. So it's not Take This to Your Grave. It is... No, it's not Take This to Your Grave. Yeah, Evening Out with Your Girlfriend. That's the one. Yes, thank you. That's the one. It's been retconned as canon. Well, it's not great. Let's check it out. I've heard worse, but it's not great. A little rough. I served out my detention. Then I moved out my life. Diet Blank local band vibes, yes. Unfortunately, not good. You know, the tough thing is, I feel like if this had better production and if Patrick was a little bit more seasoned as a vocalist, because obviously he came out to be one of the best vocalists in this whole genre. I feel like maybe it's just an example of a band being a little bit too young to really pull off what they were trying to do. I feel like the songs have promise, just the production and the performance is really bad. I want to tell you some interesting trivia about this. This is originally on Uprising Communications, which is the label started by Sean from Vegan Reich, which is like the original Hardline band. So very interesting twist of fate that Vegan Reich would end up putting out Fall Out Boy records a couple years later. Another interesting thing that Uprising put out that a lot of people don't know about. Do you remember when Travis Mills, aka T Mills, was a scene rapper? Do you remember this? Get low, get loose, get down on the floor. This was also on Uprising. This song is great. Yeah, it is. It really is. I don't know how this happened. I'm friends with Sean from Vegan Reich on Facebook. I don't really know him that well. I've talked to him a little bit. I'm genuinely baffled about how the guy from Vegan Reich, I understand how he put out Fall Out Boy because the drummer of Fall Out Boy was in Race Trader. Pete Wentz was in a bunch of like straight edge hardcore bands and stuff. So I understand how Fall Out Boy happened. What I don't understand is how Travis Mills ended up on the guy from Vegan Reich's label. That is a genuine question mark to me, and I kind of want to ask him one of these days because like it's just so random. Anyway, as for the very first album from Fall Out Boy, Evening with Your Girlfriend, I'm gonna say it's bad, but it's better than the first Slipknot album, so I'm gonna put it like in between the C and F tier, because at least it doesn't have the Berber dang with the Mr. Bungle like jazz guitar stuff. So it's gonna go in between C and F. If there was ever a case for a D tier, this would be it, but we don't have a D tier. Okay, we need something good here. How about that? Let's talk about something damn good. Let's talk about this. The very first Foo Fighters album. Let's talk about that. You know, Foo Fighters is like peak dad rock, but I gotta say, it's pretty damn good, this first album. I don't think it's their best material. I would say, personally, I think their next album, I think is the best one. My favorite Foo Fighters song is Monkey Wrench. I think this is one of like the best rock songs of the entire 90s. Just absolute like S tier classic banger in my opinion. Fucking untouchable. God tier song in my opinion. But it's not on this album. So I think it's not quite good enough to be S tier, I think, but I think it's pretty damn good. So I feel like an A tier is fair for Foo Fighters, right? What do you think? I think it's fair. I think it's fair. Dave Grohl looks like Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. I think he does. Makes you wonder if Dave shared those songs with Kurt. Those songs could have been Nirvana songs. He did share some of them with Kurt, and one of the songs that he wrote as a demo ended up being a Nirvana B-side, and I don't remember what it was. And I want to say that part of like Heart-Shaped Box, I think he might have come up with. I don't remember, but there are a couple pieces of Dave Grohl's songs. Scentless Apprentice, that's what it was. Yeah, there's a couple Dave Grohl things that that did end up in Nirvana songs, but not many. Anyway, okay, next up we have Bring Me the Horizon, their first album, Count Your Blessings, from way back in 2007. It's an interesting one. It's a tough one. Unhinged MySpace core. Yes, absolutely unhinged MySpace core. So here's the thing with this one. By the standards of MySpace deathcore, I think this and Suicide Silence and Whitechapel, the first Whitechapel demo, I think are the peak of like early MySpace deathcore. So the question is, are we judging it based on the standards of, you know, music in general, or are we judging it based on the genre? I think that's a tough one, because if we are judging it based just on music in general, well, I don't think we can put it up there with something like Foo Fighters. If we're judging it based just on MySpace in general, MySpace deathcore, then I think it can go pretty high. So yeah, they are so catchy. I mean, you can hear how like they had that pop sensibility even back then, right? I mean, they really were legitimately like great for the genre. So I think it really just depends. Are you judging it by the genre, or are you judging it by the standards of music in general? So I'm gonna be a cowardly fence sitter, and I'm gonna put it on the B tier, because I think by the standards of MySpace deathcore, I think it's awesome and great. By the standards of music in general, I would say, you know, I can't quite rank it that high. So I'm going to be a cowardly fence sitter. I'm going to put it on the beach here. I think that's fair. How about Tool? Opiate is their first release, but their first album is actually Undertow. And what is the first single off it? Sober. I gotta say, I have made fun of Tool quite a lot in the past, right? I've made fun of them quite a lot. And I will continue to make fun of them, or more accurately, make fun of their fans a lot. I saw them maybe like 4 or 5 times from like 93 to 94 or so. I think this album's pretty good. I don't know that I would choose to listen to it in the current year, but I think it's pretty good. I'm a slut for stop motion animation. You and me both. I'm also a slut for stop motion. This is really like legitimately really cool video. I think it's a cool song. I like it. I think this whole album to me might be the peak of Tool, because after this they started to get a little bit too proggy to me, and being just a little bit, I don't know, a little bit self-indulgent and dull to me. And I feel like on this album they're still kind of heavy. Maynard's vocals in this song are really good. This part, he sounds great. You may be surprised to hear this, but I actually think this is pretty damn good. I liked them a lot at the time. This is so 90s, but I saw them with like Rollins Band once. I think I saw them with like White Zombie another time. I don't remember the other times I saw them, but I saw them like several times, and they were great. Maynard was very unhinged live, and these were all in like small venues, probably like 1,000-person venues or something like that. So that was pretty cool to see them back then. And I would say, I don't know that I'm going to put this on the S tier. You guys might be surprised by this, but I would solidly put this on the A tier. I think it's pretty damn good. But we need something for the S tier. What should go on the S tier that we haven't already ranked? I feel like this list is not complete without something on the S tier. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Calculating Infinity. How about that? Here's another band that people oftentimes ask me about. Let's talk about the very first Dillinger Escape Plan album, Calculating Infinity. I remember when this came out, I had heard Under the Running Board, which was their EP from, I think, 96 or 97 or something like that, which was good. Under the Running Board was good, but Calculating Infinity by Dillinger Escape Plan from 1999, especially the song 43% Burt, nobody will ever do this kind of like crazy ass, like just balls to the wall, insane mathcore ever. This is the peak of the genre, and it always will be, and nobody will ever beat this. It's the pinnacle of the genre, no question. I'm going to tell you a few stories about Dillinger Escape Plan also. Their shows back then were totally unhinged. Like, Ben would just swing his guitar. He played like a Jackson or an ESP, I forget which one, with like a pointy kind of headstock. And he would just like swing it around, like just with complete disregard for anyone's safety. He would just like fucking whack people in the face with his guitar, cut their faces up and shit, jump on them and head walk on people. Like, it was like legitimately risking your physical safety to go see them back then, which was awesome. They had a side project called Shat, which was started by Jeff Wood, their original bassist. And, well, I'll let you listen to Shat. It's not exactly intellectual. Let's put it that way. Time to movie on the movies. It's time to movie on the movies. Time to movie on the movies. Shit on a tit. It's time to movie on the movies. So this is, as far as I'm aware, it's Dillinger Escape Plan, but they changed instruments. I saw Dillinger in 1999 or 2000, I think, and they played some songs, and then they all switched instruments and came out wearing nothing but diapers and played a bunch of Shat songs. And that was amazing. I still think Shat is like an underrated masterpiece of a band that nobody knows about. Another Dillinger, interesting Dillinger story. I've known Ben from Dillinger for a long time, not super well, but I've known him for a long time. And somehow or another, I don't remember how this happened, but we ended up living like in the same neighborhood as Dimitri, the original singer of Dillinger. And I remember going to Starbucks in like 2018 or something like that and checking my Instagram DMs, and it was him. He was like, "I'm standing right behind you." And I turned around and it was Dimitri from Dillinger. And we had Thanksgiving dinner with him that year because for whatever reason, I think our family was out of town and he's from New Jersey, so he didn't have any family. And we're like, "Do you want to just have Thanksgiving dinner with us?" And so we did. Great guy, super nice dude. And I just can't say enough good things about this version of Dillinger. I think Calculating Infinity is just one of the all-time greatest, like, I mean, I consider them hardcore band, whatever. Maybe other people consider it metal, whatever. One of the absolute greatest bands in the genre ever. This album is absolutely untouchable, S-tier classic. Nobody will ever do this genre better than they did, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for Dillinger, especially that version of Dillinger. Absolutely love them. And that does it for this edition of the debut album tier list. I'm a slut for stop motion animation, you and me both.